we're having the most human moment that we could possibly have while surrounded by microphones and
monitors,
equipment and technology projecting onto the internet.
There's a human in the peanut gallery over there.
Yeah. Hey, make
real human boyfriend.
Let's hold off on our cheers and let's do it. Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. Cheers. Kelly Phillips in the house. Last minute guest.
Yes, very
replacing
impromptu.
Someone that decided they were too good to show up. I'm only kidding. Things happen. People can't make it. It's not a big deal. And I'll tell you what, if you can't compromise and improvise, you're not going to get anything in life done. It doesn't matter what it is.
It's true.
Would you agree?
I would agree.
And, for those of you that don't know Kelly, she is a fellow podcast host.
Cheers.
Shout outs to do you say tapestry or tapestry?
Tapestry, usually.
Tapestry?
I've heard it either way.
It's like a tomato thing.
I guess
North
I should
for
go
sales,
on record, yeah.
North Versailles.
Yeah. That sounds so weird. North Versailles.
That's how the Pat buses say it. If you're ever catching a bus, it goes North Versailles. I'm like, this bus is fucking fancy.
This bus is not from Pittsburgh, even though it is.
We starting a petition right now for the Port Authority to Yinzerize their grammar on the public transportation.
Get out of the bus. You're in North for sales. Get out. We don't want you in here.
Yeah.
There you go.
So here we are. We're drinking some beers. Cheers. Did we already
This
cheers?
is the third cheers, but I mean, I'm excited about it. We're,
3 cheers.
3 cheers for beers. And honestly, though, thank you for having me on last minute because I sort of hoped it didn't come across as like, oh, now's my chance. But I'm like, oh, maybe someday I'll be on Sykes' podcast.
Well, no, you were already on a list of people that I wanted to get on the show anyways.
Wonderful. So now you don't have to reach out to me.
Yeah, no. We met just this past year.
Mm-hmm.
You are a pretty active supporter and participant in the local music scene and beyond. I know that you do play music, but you don't play in any bands right now, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I know you play drums and you do vocals. Do you do any other instruments?
I do presently. Those are kind of my main two, but I grew up playing. I've at one point played like 6 different instruments.
Okay.
I was like a big band geek.
What was the first instrument?
Saxophone was what I started on, and then I think 11th grade they had a role to fill with low brass, and I was like, yeah, trombone sounds pretty cool. So
back in those days when you were in band and stuff like that, what was your musical intake like outside of that?
It was real weird actually. So I grew up on a steady diet of jazz and country and a little bit of like classical symphonic stuff. Because when you're, most people, at least around here, you start playing your instrument in like 3rd grade. That's when I started saxophone. And then I just got really into the wind symphonic stuff, like, what you would go hear at a concert hall, that sort of thing. But I had a babysitter up until I was like 7 or 8 who only listened to country.
Okay.
So I only listened to country for a very long time. But then my parents loved jazz. And because that's kind of why I wanted to play sax.
Did your parents play any instruments or were they just appreciators?
My mom was first chair flute at North Allegheny High School in 1970 something. Yeah. No, my mom, 3 cheers for my mom. No, my mom was the more musical person. My dad has always been a music appreciator, I think.
Cool.
But I don't think he played anything.
And then you said, around here when you were talking about people playing music, did you grow up around Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I grew up in the South Hills. I went to Baldwin and I've lived in like 3 different parts of the city. I mean, the only time I haven't lived in Pittsburgh is when I went to college in Ohio. So I had that period of you move away and you're like, oh, Pittsburgh sucks. I hate this place. And then you come back and I'm like, I love it here.
Sure.
Like, you have to go away from it to appreciate it for a little bit.
Yeah. I think that Pittsburgh has pretty much anything that most other places have, but like less complicated versions of it. So
I just said that to Eugene. I'm pointing off camera, but my boyfriend's over a hump over there. He's waving. You just can't see him. He's in the peanut gallery. We were at Deutschtown this weekend, and I just mentioned that I much prefer a city like Indianapolis or Cleveland or Pittsburgh, where you get all the big world amenities, but it's just not quite so frustrating to do it.
Yeah.
It's like a little tiny wrapped up package. I was in Toronto in May, and I didn't have like the best experience there, but I think it was because I was so in the middle of the city that it's just like Pittsburgh is a city, but it's almost more like a suburb blown up to city scale. It's just not, aside from the driving, it's not as frustrating as going into a giant city where you just feel like a cockroach in the wall. You're just like, oh my God, there's so much stuff here. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think that, the one, I've never been bitten by the wanderlust bug, and I'm pretty thankful for that. I think that there's a point in life whenever you need to accept that it's totally okay that you have what you have. And if you're not happy with what you have, make the changes to get to it. It's like a couple years ago, I got to this point where it's like, wow, like, I have a partner that I care about a lot, and we have a cool house together, and I have a job that I like, and all my friends, I'm in a metal band with my best friends. Like, what should I still be trying to chase at this point?
Exactly.
I might not be like, this huge, crazy national artist or super famous podcast guy or whatever, but like I have my circle and it's really stable, and a lot of people don't have that. So you shouldn't take what you have for granted.
And that's what I'm going through right now, because I see guys like you going out and doing stuff in the Pittsburgh music scene. And even just in this past like 6 or 7 months, I've started to feel that like, oh, like I said this when I was actually on, like, shout out to Danny and Zach from the Working Stiffs podcast. They had me on, and I mentioned this exact thing. It was like, I'm not intending to become a somebody, but I'm a little somebody right now. And it's like, it feels nice to be in a place where you can be a little somebody and kind of be like a small, medium fish in a small, medium pond. I don't want to be a big fish in a big pond. I'd much prefer to have the little stable crew of people and the nice experiences you can rely on, instead of constantly like chasing this, okay, well, I got the good job, and well, now I need to get a Mercedes.
Yeah, I think there's a thing in society now where people unfortunately seem to neglect taking time to appreciate what they have. As soon as they get something that they want, it's like, well, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, gotta get more.
And then they don't even take the time to appreciate what they have. I came to this realization when thinking about my record collection and the way a few years ago I was consuming vinyl.
Yeah.
I was buying more records than I had time to listen to, but I was like, I got to buy more, but I don't actually ever take the time to sit down and listen to them and really enjoy them.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Why do you fill your life with it if you can't even?
But like, there's people that just do that with every aspect of their life. They just keep buying metaphorical records and never taking the time to metaphorically listen to those things.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
It's really sad.
Did you eventually get to listen to most of your records?
I still have some that I haven't listened to, but I've definitely cut back on buying records.
We were at the government center at Deutschtown yesterday. I'm personally not a record collector. I just know my personality. I will never be a record collector. I can appreciate it. I think it's so cool that it's making a comeback, but I'm quite frankly, I'm just an impatient person. So it's like, I know I do not have the attention span to sit and place it on my turntable and sit down and listen with good headphones. But I don't know how people afford it. Like, it's crazy to think of collectors who, they're like, oh, this is my favorite band. I have to get, the super speckle version and then the gold version and the limited edition pressing and the what. And I'm like, they're like $25 to $40 vinyl. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
So props to you.
I think that I was going to comment that given I know you're not strictly a metal listener, but I mean, as many that are watching can see, you have a jacket covered in patches.
And this is an Opeth shirt.
You're obviously a metal fan.
Yes.
And you like a lot of, metal from across the pond. Mm-hmm. So if you were to collect records for the bands that you like, it's going to be a very expensive hobby for you.
Yes.
Because, European metal vinyl, getting it imported in the States.
Even just pressing it.
Yeah.
I mean, talking to people, it's like, I've found bands where they certainly have the fan base to press vinyl, and it would just be financial suicide for them to do so without having to like mark it up at an extreme markup to their fans.
It's really, really hard. I self-released 2 records with Sykes and the New Violence, self-pressed them. One I did completely out of my own pocket, and then the second one I did like a it wasn't Kickstarter. It was like Pledge Music.
Oh,
Pledge
okay.
Music. We did a Pledge Music campaign for that, and that was cool, successful. Thanks to everybody that gave me money for my stupid dreams. Cheers to you.
Yes.
But I don't think I would ever press another record again on my own. It's a lot of work. And I mean, I work for a record label, so I know how much goes into it, and people's attitude towards records existing and them buying them is still lopsided. Like a lot of people will be stoked that you have a record, but only like 10% of those people are actually going to buy it.
Right.
So, and it's too much of an investment to make. It's one thing to say like, hey, if I made these t-shirts, would you buy them? So you make them, you spend a few $100 and then, half the people actually buy the t-shirt,
Right.
but you spend a few $1,000s on records and a few people buy them. It's like, oh, that's, you're in the hole
huge discrepancy.
A lot more. So there's a lot of places we could take the conversation right now. And I don't want to forget about this, but you mentioned that the first instrument that you played was saxophone. And we've been talking now about, how you listen to a lot of, metal and abstract metal. So my question is going to be, what is your take on the new over the top saxophone in so much metal?
That's funny you say that because oh man. So I won't forget your question, but I wanted to kind of explain myself with the vest. I wanted to wear the vest sort of, I don't want to say for vain reasons, but because your platform reaches a lot of people in Pittsburgh. I go to so many shows and I run into people that like, I'll meet them and I recognize them, but then we might not introduce ourselves or whatever. So I was sort of in a vain way, kind of being like, maybe somebody will watch this and be like, oh, that's that girl I see all the time. But the other thing I'm sort of known for, I guess, is I am like a fiend when it comes to making Spotify playlists. I design my own artwork for the covers and I have all these ridiculous categories and I love giving people music recommendations. And one of my playlists on Spotify, which I really need to change the name because it's not a surprise if you announce it, but it's called Surprise Saxophone. And it's just a collection. It's a collection of songs that are all saxophone in a place you don't expect it. Like I'm kind of guessing you asking that question, you might be a reference to like Rivers of Nile.
Sure.
Doing the whole sax thing with their latest album.
Which is fucking awesome.
White Ward, any of that real fusion metal stuff.
The first time I remember hearing it, that like where it really stuck out was on like an old Ishan project.
Oh, Das Silberbracken.
I don't remember the name of it. It's like a white album cover, maybe.
Arctis is that one, and then Aramisha, I think Aramisha is like I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
but I remember it was the first time that I remember hearing like a prominent amount of saxophone, like on like a avant-garde black metal project. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And like the saxophone is such an abrasive instrument that's always used in a very smooth way, but to hear it used in like this very like attack, like a swarm of some sort of insect just fucking hitting you.
Right.
It's really cool.
It's a really expressive instrument. And I definitely, coming from a jazz background, I definitely was led down the path of I'm going to play saxophone because I want to play, Maynard Ferguson, big band stuff and, like Chick Corea and that sort of thing. But to finally answer your question, I'm fully on board with saxophone in metal or just saxophone in like weird places. Like there's a really great, the best I could describe them as would be the best genre I could describe them as is, progressive country, like progressive folk. They're called the Dark Red Sea. They're from Seattle and they play these straightforward, like alternative country songs, but then they just throw in these little sax bits, little violin bits. And it's just like, it's such a rewarding thing to listen to when you aren't expecting that instrumentation and then it just comes out of nowhere and it's like, ooh, okay, I dig that.
It's so interesting to hear something that sounds so new and fresh played with traditional instruments. And especially in a time where I've said this before on the podcast that I think, genres have kind of gone out the window and now we have two styles of music and it's like music made with computers and music made with instruments.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like it's really, the lines have been blurred so much, which is really cool. I'm all for experimentation. However, I really enjoy hearing stuff like, oh, wow, like instead of this being some crazy synthesizer thing, it's just saxophone on metal.
Yeah, it's a real person wailing into this instrument.
Definitely got burned out really quick on like the synthesizer driven metal stuff.
I fight with my boyfriend, not really, but just we go back and forth about like he's really into it needs to sound like it was made by a human, and he almost prefers like I want to hear a mistake, I want to hear something very organic, and then me, I don't know if it's just because I'm a highly sensitive person and my ears are really sensitive, I guess. I don't like brick walling, but production wise, I really get myself in tune with like the very clean, very processed. I don't want to say unfeeling because I need emotion in my music, but it has to sound like you gave a shit about it. Like you didn't just go out in your backyard and hit the recorder and go from there.
For me, there's a balance between the two, but I engage with, we'll say, for example, highly produced metal albums. I almost listen to them in the same way I would listen to an electronic music album because it's almost produced in the same way.
Right.
If you listen to like newer Faceless and things like that,
yeah,
it's like, this is practically computer music. Mm-hmm. Even though we played this with instruments, we put it into a computer program and processed it to the point that, it's like you wouldn't be able to make the album sound like that without the computer.
Exactly.
So therefore, in a way, it is computer music, where there are other styles of music where like, okay, so like the Faceless couldn't have recorded Planetary Duality, on an 8-track.
Right.
You couldn't have used the same stuff that the Beach Boys used to record Pet Sounds to record that album. However,
I want to see them try.
Pet Sounds is an amazing work of production, but it sounds like a bunch of motherfuckers in a room playing music. Right. And I really like that. So I like both aspects, but I just engage with it differently. However, if I see a highly produced metal band live, and if they can't at least somewhat replicate it, it really bums me out, and I tend to not be a fan of them.
Well,
afterwards,
that's what happened to me when I saw Fallujah. I have a Fallujah patch over here. I love Fallujah; they're my favorite technical death metal band. But it sucked. Wow, I'm saying Fallujah sucked. They didn't, but I saw them at the Rex Theater on that Carnage, whatever that Carnage tour. It was like Whitechapel, Revocation, all those guys. I love Fallujah, and so much of their music is dependent on the immersive ambient stuff going on in the background, the female vocals and the atmospheric stuff and just those sonic layers. And then when you went and saw them play it at the Rex, you could physically see them with your own eyes putting in all the work, and they were doing a great job, but it just didn't impact me the way I guess wanted it to, because I already had the expectations set up from hearing their studio stuff. Like, I'm going to go there and I'm just going to get lost in this layering and stuff. And then the sound at the Rex Theater is kind of hit or miss, and you're standing in a big box that's made out of concrete. So it's just like stuff's bouncing around, and it just, I was just like,
another issue that I have with the Rex and a lot of newer metal bands. This actually happened to me the last time I saw Flesh God Apocalypse at Cativo.
Oh God. We were just listening to them last night. Do they bring like a whole ensemble of?
No.
Okay. I didn't think they did. I figured they backtracked a lot of it.
So the issue is you have a lot of these metal bands now that are really into the digital processing of their guitar tones. They're using, Axe FX or Kemper, and those are great devices. Mm-hmm. But at Cativo, Flesh God Apocalypse was using I don't remember what they were using, but it was some sort of like digital amp modeling. Mm-hmm. And there's no stage volume coming from the stage. So if you wanted to hear what the mix sounded like, you had to stand in the back of the room, but it's a fucking metal show. Yeah. But if you're standing up front, all you can hear is the drum and vocals, because there's no actual guitar sound coming out of the cabs. And it sounds thin. So weird. And then I don't have any experience with this with metal at the Rex, but I have a feeling that something that could have happened, because a lot of the bands like Fallujah or Tesseract or Periphery, like all these are on my all those bands are really into that amp modeling shit. Mm-hmm. And at the Rex, their mains are like 25 feet off the ground, like hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, and they're angled and stuff too.
But so if there's no stage volume, if everything's coming from up there, it's just going to sound hollow.
Right.
It sounds so weird.
That's the best way to put it too.
And you have all of these bands now that are like, they're playing with fancy in-ear monitors, and it sounds great to them. I don't think they realize how empty it sounds to the crowd.
Yeah, it can. It can, and it's always a letdown. I mentioned this story to somebody the other day. One of my favorite bands ever is Minus the Bear, and they're indie alt rock. They're not metal at all, but they really inspired a lot of my desire to pick up drums, and so they're just a very important band to me. And they're no longer a band, so they had their farewell tour in October of last year, and they played their last show at Mr. Small. So I'm like, okay, I got tickets. I got to go see him one more time. And I went by myself, and like the sound was okay. It was nice. But the whole time I was just like, I had my expectations set. Like, okay, this is going to be one last hurrah. It's going to be so joyous and fun. And then, I really personally didn't connect with most of the songs they chose for their set list. It wasn't off any of the albums I liked. Yeah. I was there alone. And it was also just kind of sad because you're like, oh, this is the last time I get to see them. And I'm so frugal. I always try to get my money's worth. And I had already bought my ticket at that point. I literally left halfway through because I felt as if it was better that I left the memory of how I wanted to remember that band in my head instead of having it soiled by a bad experience on a last show.
I tapped out on Minus the Bear after Omni, and that was even stretching it for me.
See, I like all their later albums that are like less math rock, more kind of poppy, fun rock. Yeah.
Like Omni has some moments on it, but I really like Planet of Ice because it's like an indie rock Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Planet of Ice is one of my favorite albums to play drums to.
Especially as like, it's fun because that album starts out as just like, okay, this is like fun, mathy indie stuff, but it just gets so like open and immersive as it goes, which is like what I really like about that album. And I like their early stuff too. That's a lot more like weird. But I remember I saw them one time at Stage AE, and it just seemed like they had that like demeanor, like we couldn't care less to be here when playing.
I'm trying to think if I felt that way. And I've seen them twice at Mr. Smalls.
Yeah, it just like rubbed me the wrong way. Like
sometimes that's all it takes to, like you said, okay, relationship with this band has ended. Like I'm not a fan of them anymore because they did a thing that I didn't like, but you gotta, I guess, remember that they're human, of course, but I'm saying this like you don't go through this all the time because you're in a bunch of bands, but that's how it feels. It's almost like, I'd rather just remember it how I want to and just forget that happened and just continue to listen to it on streaming or CD or something.
It's, I think that a lot of bands, everybody has off nights.
Yeah, exactly.
And the one thing that I'm noticing now a lot that's kind of rubbing me the wrong way with a lot of bands is, have you noticed that a lot of bands that are touring, like their first one of their first 3 dates will be in Pittsburgh? Sometimes like their first date is here.
I'm trying to think of anybody I've seen recently. I don't think that's the case for anyone I've seen.
I've just been noticing it. And it seems like, we're like a tester city, like a try it out city.
It's weird though, because a lot of bands that I have seen like multiple times, like some of my bands I've seen, actually, so next week I'll be seeing The Contortionist in Indianapolis, and that'll be my 8th time seeing them. Like there are some bands I'll just go see live pretty much every chance I get. And it's great when you get on this kill streak of like, okay, like every time I've seen them, they've been absolutely fantastic. They've been great with the crowd. And track record for me, at least, most bands I see love Pittsburgh. They even like go out of their way. Like the last time I saw Protest the Hero, the guys are from Canada, and they like their guitarist was wearing a Kelly O's Diner shirt that they got in the morning. Shit. And somebody had like bought them a Permanis gift card. So they're like, oh, we just want to say we love you guys, and Permanis the fucking bomb. And like they were so into the fact that they were here and that they have a really solid fan base.
Those guys have always seemed like total sweethearts.
They're great. They're my favorite band. They're the best. They're just like, I did my thesis project on Protest the Hero. That's not a joke. Like I love them. Yeah.
I haven't kept up with a lot of their later material, and it was for no reason other than the fact that I just didn't. But I remember I really, really liked Fortress a lot. And I remember I pre-ordered it on iTunes whenever it came out.
Yeah.
So I got the instrumental version of the album as well. And I was just blown away by all the production on that album because, I don't know. What's the vocalist's name?
Brody Walker.
Okay. Great guy. Great vocalist. But, he really dominates the mix.
He does,
But hearing those songs without him being, flamboyantly beautiful on top of everything. There's so much stuff that gets buried. And I'm like, man, I wish that like everybody could engage with this on its like full scale.
I have that conversation a lot with friends of mine because I listen to an immense amount of music of all styles, and there are some bands that the vocalist, that is that pressure point for me. Like, I don't know if you've ever listened to Haken. They're like real kind of like wanky, you know, noodly prog rock metal stuff from the UK. And I saw them at the Rex Theater, and I love everything about Haken for the most part, except their vocalist. And it's not because he's a bad vocalist. It's actually, he is such a good vocalist that I almost feel like listening to him on a studio album plunges me into the uncanny valley. He's almost so good that he sounds like a robot. His voice control and his just the way he attacks and stuff, he is so phenomenally good. And it's just kind of like, he's an android. So when I got to see them at the Rex Theater, it was like, oh, okay, good. He's a real life human. Like I can see him performing his craft. And that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. But they are a band that I just feel like bands have almost no reason nowadays not to release an instrumental version of their album, because as a friend mentioned to me, he said, it literally costs the band nothing. You just re-export all the tracks without the vocal track and some of the effects. I mean, I know it's not that simple, but he's like, doing that little bit of extra work could gain you some fans who, you know, they may never ever listen to the version of the album with the vocalist if their voice is really abrasive to them or something, but they might listen to the shit out of the instrumental versions. Yeah. And I like the instrumental versions of Haken. It's great. I just don't like listening to it with vocals. Shout outs.
This is the first announcement that I'm doing this, and I'm just thinking about it right now. I got to double check the date real quick. I do agree. I really enjoy listening to instrumental versions of albums as well, just because I like hearing that extra production and just it's a neat way to engage with things. I mean, I have I see you have the Tesseract patch.
Yes,
I have Tesseract 1 on vinyl. And it has the instrumental vinyl and the album vinyl. And I probably listen to the instrumental versions of the songs more.
That's my favorite Tesseract album, honestly. I mean, Dan's great. Ash is great. No matter who their vocalist is, they're great. But there's something about that first one.
There was something about, there was a lot more attention to detail in their dynamics in their earlier work. I fully understand why they kind of decided to like slowly shave off all of the metal out of their stuff, you know, and like they still write beautiful compositions, but I like the dynamics of being able to go from like something really, really pretty to being like really, really low and like make it work. It was like a really, really fun roller coaster. And now it's just like an okay roller coaster.
Yeah, a lot more like ups and downs.
Yeah, that was, you know, awesome. But July 29th, Greywalker's going to be releasing the deluxe version of Without Control on all streaming platforms, which includes the instrumental version of the album.
That's perfect.
So yeah, there's a quick plug for that.
Also great that you're the vocalist. You're like, hey, go buy my record without me singing or screaming on it.
We released the last version of our last album. We released an instrumental version of it. And I remember we made like a promo for it where like, I photoshopped me out of the band photos and stuff like that. And like, just made it like really abrasive. Like, fuck this guy. Listen to the album without, it was a lot of fun, but, yeah. One more thing that I want to touch on, because we actually got some listener questions. Some people sent some stuff in.
Okay, great. For my impromptu.
So shout outs to those people, but I do want to bring up to kind of tie in the knot on album production, metal bands playing live. I remember the first time I ever talked to you.
Okay.
Specifically.
I'm wondering.
Are you talking to me? We were playing a show and you walked up to me and complimented me on my Car Bomb t-shirt.
Oh, was it when you guys played at Cativo?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the first time I saw you guys. I just can't remember the show.
It might have been Darkest Hour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was Darkest Hour. And that was the time that Stefan Wolfgang, whatever his name is. Yeah. He was the guy that I took a video of unknowingly downing this salad in the mosh pit at Darkest Hour. Cause I guess they had made his food order kind of late and he had like just gotten the chance to run up to the bar and eat. And he's like, fuck, I gotta shovel it in. So he's like shoveling this salad down right as this mosh pit's opening. But yeah.
If you want a small world, this conversation, I'm going to give you one guess to guess who I share this space with.
Well, I saw it on your door, the Arkham thing. And I was like, wait, that's Salad Guy who I met in person out at Casey's with Shy from Whorehound seeing oh my God, who was it? It was, God, I don't remember the name of the band, Active Shooter and some other bands. And he overheard me talking about signs because I work for a sign company, and he's like, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but I might need some signage to help promote my real estate company. And I looked at him and I'm like, why is this guy so familiar? Like and then he's like, here, send me a request on Facebook so I can get in touch with you. And I was like, it's just like it's the salad guy.
Did you tell him that?
I did. Yeah. He was like, oh my God, that was like 2 years ago at this point, 2 or 3 easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just full circle. It was crazy.
So funny.
I can't believe you remember that though.
Well, I remember it specifically because I had that shirt for a really long time and nobody ever said a damn word to me about it.
Car Bomb's the best.
And Car Bomb's one of those bombs that like I've championed for a very long time. I've been listening to them since like way back Relapse Records days.
Yeah.
And, nobody really knows who they are, and it's super unfortunate. So you like mentioned that to me. And then after that, it was like, I just saw you all the time at places just because you were coming out to a lot of shows. We were playing a lot of shows, and I'm like, oh, that's the person that knows Car Bomb is cool. And then, because I had seen Car Bomb was a band that I never got a chance to see live for a really long time.
Did you get to see them live?
I did.
Did you see them in Cleveland?
No, I saw them here.
Oh, I didn't even know. Oh, wait.
They played with Periphery.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was that show.
Yeah.
So we were at that show together.
So, but what had happened was, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because they're one of those bands that like, they're very produced. And it's like, can you do this live? And then I saw them live. And while it's not as like robotically perfect, it's still there. They could still do it. And
it's
like,
heavy
cool.
and it's insane. Yeah. I have to mention, I've mentioned it on my podcast a couple of times, but I owe a lot of my, I guess, podcast growth and my exploration in new music to, there's a Discord group that I'm in. It's called Images and Words. I think, it's Rush album, I think. Yeah, but it's
Dream Theater.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Dream. Oh my God, shame on me. Shame on me. I always want to say Rush because the icon is the guy from the one Rush album cover. That's why I'm getting that confused. But anyway, so it's, like a chat room for a bunch of prog nerds. And there's a guy in that Discord group who made a playlist that's called Carly Bomb. So it's Carly Rae Jepsen songs, and every other one is a Car Bomb song. So it's just Carly Bomb. And that's like been a running meme in that Discord group. And I think it's like the greatest thing ever. There's a surprising amount of overlap with metalheads loving pop music.
Yeah, I think that
nothing wrong with that.
I remember I had talked with Dylan and Spencer from Full of Hell on an early episode of Start the Beat. And I asked them about like, what's some music that maybe the two of you are into that would surprise people. I remember Spencer saying that he was a huge fan of Grimes.
Oh yeah. Somebody recommended Grimes to me recently.
Yeah. And I was like, I could see that. So it's kind of just like abstract fun stuff. And I think that like, even like back to another food analogy, it's like, like snack food is fun. Yeah. Snack food's good. Like who doesn't want a Cheeto every once in a while? It's like, I find like a lot of pop songs, like that sticky sweetness to it to really be, a metaphorical equivalent to a pop song.
Yeah. Well, I know you just had Jerry and Julia Mulligan on your show. And, we're tight with them and hey, fuck you guys. No. And I talked to Julia about that the one time, how, I'm really into like the progressive stuff that's just always kind of weird and not necessarily like easy listening stuff that you just throw on in the background. But she told me the one time, she's like, I don't think I'll ever really be into that stuff. But also the fact that she's like, I'm not ashamed to just throw on some, I don't want to say lowbrow, but just, I don't want to have to think about the music I listen to sometimes. Sometimes I just want to put something on that sounds good. And I don't try to make any claims about anything when I'm listening to it.
A good song is a good song, no matter what it is.
That's it.
So before we get into listener questions, who needs a refill? We need some refills on beers?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, probably. Cool. So I'm going to grab some beer, and why don't you tell the people where they can find your podcast?
Oh, sure. To the people. I am Tapestry Music Podcast. I'm kind of on all the platforms. The only ones I really, I guess, monitor widely are I upload all my stuff to SoundCloud. I'm now recently on Spotify. I'm on Apple Music, but I truthfully don't touch it, but I know I'm available. And Yeah, and then you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for the refill. This is service right here. God, I got to drive home. No, I'm on Instagram as Tapestry Music Podcast. If you see me around, like my logo is a little purple microphone with a white T. That's me. And yeah, that's about everywhere I am for right now. So nothing fancier than that.
I believe this is the second time we're drinking beer that's not from Allegheny City Brewing, but I'm putting the logo here.
No. False advertising.
It's fine. We're drinking Penn Dark from Penn Brewery.
It's very good.
Shout outs to them and shout outs to Allegheny City Brewing, which is right down the street. They are friends of Penn, so I don't feel bad plugging them.
This was a really good choice, by the way.
Penn Dark's a great beer.
Excellent. I'm not a light beer IPA person.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really smooth drinking beer.
Yeah, it's a good easy beer. It's only 4.7%, so you don't got to worry.
That's why I don't feel.
You don't got to worry about being all like. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight.
I like it. It's a good dark beer. It tastes like a traditional beer. It's not gonna fucking wreck you. You could drink a couple of them and not feel too guilty. So, without further ado, let's get into listener questions.
Great.
I'm gonna just plop this over here.
Oh, great. Oh, I've already been question bombed by all the Jake the Hawk guys.
We can't. I still have yet to find a way to work this out so that the TV doesn't completely blow out on the camera. So just deal with that. I apologize. It's fine.
Keeps the suspense.
This is mainly just so we can read it easily. I'm going to zoom in a bit. How much can I zoom in? All right. Okay, so let's see if I can actually make this a little bit darker on the screen for anybody watching. Oh,
yeah, that's legible. That's legible.
Now you can't see us, but you can see the TV.
No, it actually brings my skin tone to a normal amount, so I don't look like a bleached human.
All right, so since there's 3 questions, we're gonna answer all 3 of them.
Perfect.
All right, John, not John, asks. Have you seen Midsommar yet?
I have not, but I did see John, not John, about 12 hours ago.
Yeah, I saw him too. He was heading to, whoa, I turned the brightness up way too much on that. Let's go back down to earth there. I saw him too. He was on his way here actually to watch our mutual friend and former guest of the podcast, Walkman.
Oh, yeah.
He's a good dude, but one big thing that I tried to do with my Deutschtown Music Fest experience was see a lot of bands that I don't normally ever get to see. Because I had some friends that were playing that either they're always playing at some place that's like an hour away or they just never play.
Right.
So I took a lot of my time to check out those bands and not see my friend. I just played with Walkman a few months ago. So it's and we're homies, nothing against them, but yeah. I've seen you. I want to see somebody else.
Right. I saw him at the Long Hunt last night, and I feel so bad because Allison and Trevor, I see them out all the time, and it's so hard to be sincere when you truly mean when you say to somebody, "I'm so sorry I couldn't make it to your show," because that sounds like an empty excuse. But it's been like 3 explicitly different times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go see a Long Hunt show, and then something comes up, or I have to make some scheduling. I'm like, son of a.
Yeah.
So I finally got to see them last night. It was so worth it. And John was sitting right next to me.
They're fucking awesome. And I was trying so hard to hang in there and stick around for them.
Day.
Well, me and Stacy went to Kennywood at 10 o'clock in the morning yesterday to ride the new ride.
Okay.
We stood in line for 4 hours to ride the Steel Curtain. Shout outs to the Steel Curtain. It's really hard for me to justify standing 4 hours in line for anything.
Oh my God.
But it was a really, really awesome ride. I'm a huge roller coaster fan. I'm a huge theme park fan. My old man goal is I'm going to join one of those roller coaster groups that goes on the buses and goes around the country and rides all the rides. I fucking love it. And I've been saying forever, when this new ride opens, I'm going to be there opening fucking day and I'm going to ride that goddamn ride. And I'm a man of my word. And if I want to do something, I do it. No matter the cost.
That's a long time to sit and bake in the sun. Yesterday was, it was a scorcher, but it was just more with Deutschtown. You were just walking around.
I caught up on a lot of emails.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was tight.
Yeah.
But it was totally fun. Definitely worth it. I know the line's not going to be 4 hours forever. So if anybody gets a chance to go out there and ride the ride, I highly recommend it. And yeah. But after that, we went straight to Deutschtown. It's
So
just by
long
the
of a day.
time it got to be like 10 o'clock at night, like me and Stacy ate late. So we ate like a late dinner. And then after that, it was like shut down.
Yep.
Cause we got the food in us and it was like,
Well, our morning before Deutschtown yesterday was Eugene had a friend in town who they actually had been to Deutschtown before. Yesterday was my first experience. And there's that sushi bomb place up in Robinson,
Yeah.
the unlimited sushi. And our idea of a good time was to go eat, disgusting amounts of sushi and then go walk it all off around Deutschtown. And it was like, the whole day I'm just like, yeah, exactly. That's what I felt like most of the morning. And then, like 4 hours of walking around, you're kind of like, okay, I could go for some ice cream. So that was my diet yesterday. It was $18 worth of sushi, 2 scoops of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And then by the end of the night, I somehow was like, I'll drink some beer and have brisket nachos from Rogue Barbecue at the food truck. Oh my God. Like I slept in and I was going to get up and go to the gym. And I'm like, no, I'd have to get somebody to roll me there. So,
John, Midsummer. I didn't even know what this was. I just Googled it.
yeah.
It's a movie. It's a drama / thriller.
Oh, I was thinking there's also a band called that, I think too. That's what I was taking
really?
it as. But yeah, I don't watch horror films. Like if any of my friends out there are like, oh, did you see, this?
So what's
No,
up with
I
that?
haven't.
Are you like one of those people that likes metal, but not metal or not metal type things?
Well,
If horror is a metal type thing, I think it is.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. Like I said before in this interview, I'm a highly sensitive person. And I think like my mom is a really easily startled person. I'm a really easily startled person. And I guess certain emotions, like I think a little bit of struggle and resistance is good for people. But at the same time, I don't like to willingly be afraid. Like if I can avoid it, I think that's kind of a biological instinct to not want to be afraid of things. So I'm sort of
Fair
like,
enough.
I get plenty afraid of stupid things, like my own mind, like my own anxiety and stuff does it for me. So why would I pay $9 to go sit in a theater to be afraid? Like it just doesn't appeal to me. But I think, psychological thrillers, like I'll read scary books or I'll read suspenseful books, but I guess maybe the act of seeing it live, I'm just not all that into. So
Fair enough.
Sorry, I have not seen that and I probably won't, but
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I haven't even heard of it. But you know what? I will maybe I'll check it out. So thanks for the question, John, not John.
Yeah.
All right. And then we got
fellow bandmate,
Jake the Hawk drummer, who is a very, very tight live drummer. I do want to say that, Jordan. I saw them play.
Thumbs up, Jordan.
They opened up for Zealand Ardor, and that was a really cool show.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a really I like Jake the Hawk. That was the first time I saw them live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those gentlemen have recently come into my life.
Yeah. Oh, they're great gentlemen.
Yeah, they're nice guys. Jordan's a cool dude, very good drummer, and he asks the hard-hitting question.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
My boyfriend's over there going, no, answer no.
I will say,
you know what I just thought about? Didn't you just plug Banh Mi and tea on your last episode? So if a banh mi is a sandwich and it comes in 3 of the 4 walls are not enclosed, it's not a cubicle of bread with meat in the middle. If a banh mi qualifies as a sandwich, I kind of feel like a hot dog might qualify as a sandwich. I actually feel that way now. I have never once thought about this, but it's just like if you've ever heard the question, is ravioli just a fruit or is ravioli just a meat Pop-Tart? That like, I mean, I'm going to have to answer that. I don't consider it one personally, but I guess by the books, a hot dog is a sandwich. What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to say
do you need the meat to be stacked? Is the fact that it's in a cylindrical shape what's putting you off from the fact that a hot dog might be a sandwich?
2019 is a really socially acceptable time. You know what I mean? We're talking a lot about a fluidity.
You can identify as any kind of sandwich that
so
you want.
I think that, if a hot dog wants to identify as a sandwich, it can in 2019 for sure. And I'm going to say sure, especially if a hot dog has cheese on it.
Yeah.
Then it's definitely some form of a sandwich.
Or like a Coney Island dog that just has, hey, do you want some meat with your meat?
Yeah.
And onions? Sure. Like, I think it's a sandwich.
I think a hot dog can be a sandwich.
Wow, this has been the most productive discussion of 2019.
Yeah.
Answer solved. Hot dogs are sandwiches. You heard it here.
Awesome. So, hey, Jordan, thanks for the question.
Yeah.
And then one last question from Anthony Berardi.
I've met him too. I met him at a Jake the Hawk show. See,
God, all these people like podcasts, fucking nerds. Anthony Bernardi asks, pineapple on pizza? I wouldn't go out of my way to put pineapple on a pizza. I'm not going to order pineapple on a pizza. But if I'm somewhere and they're like, hey, we got some pizza. And I'm like, word, what's on it? They're like, pineapple. I'll be like, fine.
Me personally, resounding yes to pineapple on pizza. Okay, resounding maybe is a strong word. I agree with pineapple on pizza. I like it, but it usually is better when it has ham on it too. You know, so, classic Hawaiian pizza is great, but
what I'm going to say regarding my experience with pineapple on pizza is the pineapple needs to be, or the pizza needs to be a little bit closer to room temp, I think, for me to like it. I think if it's like oven fresh hot.
Oh yeah. Warm
like
fruit.
The consistency of the pineapple is kind of fucked up, but if everything kind of balances out and they can meet in the middle, right. I feel that those textures work a little bit better.
Or thinking like, because my very first, my second job, when I was like, before I went into the field I'm in now, I worked at a restaurant, and that was always my favorite position to work as a cook, was doing like a wood fired pizza thing. And it's just so much fun to like toss the dough and cook it and make all the pizzas and stuff. That's just a blast. But I always hated doing the pineapple ones because it's sort of like, you realize you're ordering wilted fruit on your pizza. Like it kind of all tastes the same going in, but I don't know. I agree with you though. It has to be a little bit, it's almost like you touch up the pizza in the oven and then you put the pineapple on top when it's done.
I wish Stacy was here to talk about this, my girlfriend.
She really opinionated on pineapple on pizza?
No, she likes pineapple on pizza, but she legitimately puts one thing on a pizza and she loves it. And it's like the most adolescently psychopath thing about her. But it's a good part of the reason why I love her, because she's a fucking weirdo. What do you think her thing to put on pizza is?
I've only met Stacy once and I don't know, but is it a vegetable or like a meat?
It's neither.
Oh, Christ. Pretzels.
No, that's it. I would try
eat
that.
Pretzel pizza.
Sour Patch Kids.
Whoa. Whoa. Eugene had, what was that freaking, have you tried the Sour Patch Kids cereal?
No.
I don't want to say I hate it or even like dislike it, but think about how weird that is, soaking sour, crunchy pieces in cold, creamy milk. It's not exactly that appealing, and it's really weird the way
you make it sound really negative.
Yeah, creamy is, I don't like creamy as a descriptor.
I feel like you used a lot of triggering verbiage there. So
yeah, I kind of skewed my answer. It's just a really weird flavor profile, and God, I just said this word the other night and I'm like, please smack me upside the face. Gordon Ramsay should burst in this door. It doesn't have a good mouthfeel. It's just
that's fair.
Weird. You know, it's sour and weird.
We got one more question that came in last minute from my friend David of the band Pet Clinic, who played a really good set last night. I caught the last tail end of it. But before we get into that, I'm going to do a couple things. One, we got 4% left on the battery on the camera.
Okay.
Audio's fine, but camera's going to have to go. So for visuals, we're saying goodbye to you. I'm going to put up just a nice picture and the rest of the video will play through and you can listen to it, but the camera's going to die. I'm turning it off and we're going to continue with the audio as is. And I'm going to talk more about Stacy being a psychopath and licking Sour Patch Kids on pizza. So I'm stopping actually, I'll just let the camera roll until it dies.
And it'll still write even if it runs out of battery.
Yeah, well, the audio and the thing are on separate things.
Okay,
so
cool.
We're good. I'm just going to let that roll. I'm just letting you know now to expect that to die. But yeah, the Sour Patch Kids on pizza thing is not as bad as you think it would be.
I would try it. That's for sure. Did she like grow up doing that or just some weird fluke thing she tried?
She'd have to answer those questions.
Okay,
next time you see her, ask her about it. But I've definitely had it. And I was like, this is fine.
I may have just burped too. I couldn't tell if I picked it up. So I'm sorry. I kind of like slipped out.
That's fine. No worries.
It wasn't in my response to the Sour Patch Kids on pizza. It was just,
I like people that know what they like and they're unapologetic about it. I think it's important to, find who you are.
I will eat almost anything.
Go for it.
Yeah. I'll eat almost anything no matter how weird it is. Yeah. I don't care. Like there's There's almost not many. There pretty much are no foods that I dislike except for oysters. Really,
Okay.
oysters are like eating sea snot. It's just, I can't get. I'm a big texture freak. I can't get over that scummy. It's like somebody hawked a loogie into a shell and just here you go.
It's
It'll
funny
be
that that's like
$12.99.
fancy food too, right?
Well, think about how lobsters have changed. So sociologically, lobsters used to be, they're the bugs of the sea. The fishermen they'd pull them up on their catch and be like, oh, what's this shit? Well, I guess we can eat it. And now it's like they have the audacity to charge you $35 for one.
It's kind of like diamonds.
Yeah, it's kind of like a shifting goalpost of what that food represents in society.
It's almost kind of like pop music too, in a way. You find a way to put the most value on like the simplest, dumbest stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
But a lot of pop music can be really hard to write. So no hate on pop music, but it's just a thing that I thought about.
Yeah, there's always that statement of like, well, pop music is so simple. Yeah, you write a pop song. You write a #1 best-selling pop song. Tell me how easy it is. I couldn't do it.
And I have stopped the camera. We're at 1% battery, just so everybody out there in audio land knows. But we're going to answer this last question. Unless another one came in, we can keep doing it. This is actually a good question because this comes from David of the band Pet Clinic, who played yesterday. Meg. They played at Deutschtown Music Fest. We've been talking about Deutschtown Music Fest. And
Meg.
Get out of here, Meg. Leave us alone.
Meg.
So Dave asked, I had a lot of people at Deutschtown asking me for physical maps to know who was playing, where, and when. Is this a topic? I imagine that it probably is a topic, but one of the things that actually rubs me the wrong way with Deutschtown is it seems that they have a really hard time getting a grasp on like getting venues to get their shit together, because a lot of the time bands get moved around at the last minute. It seems to always happen.
I missed Oceans to Ash yesterday. I really wanted to go see Oceans to Ash. I planned it in my schedule, and I ran into a friend from college who had told me ahead of time he was going to be in town driving in from Columbus. They did a brewery tour with some friends, and I was like, okay, I got to go see my buddy Steve. So I said, hey, why don't you just come down to the north side? I'll give you the address. Come see some music. And so I was kind of carting them around, like leading them in the wrong direction on Google Maps for a while. And we hauled ass over to Armory Printworks, which was where Oceans to Ash was going to be. And then you walk all the way over there, and I'm leading them there in the hot sun. And there's a sign taped on the door that says we're over at somewhere on Tripoli Street, which is literally like in the complete opposite direction. I was like, well, fuck, I'm going to miss their set now. Like we have to be over here at 6. So by the time I walk over and see I couldn't really make it, and I couldn't really justify dragging them all along for a 30-minute walk.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that seems to happen with Deutschtown, which is understandable because I think they're just biting off more than they can chew. Mm-hmm. And I think on paper, it sounds really cool to be like 30 stages, 300 bands.
I think they do fairly well for how insane that really
it is. But I think that if you scaled it back to something a little bit more manageable with places and locations that could be reliable,
right,
it would make the festival function a bit more and give you that opportunity to do things like having like a map and things where bands, I can't talk. Being able to have that something reliable set in stone, so you could do something like how Millville Music Fest did, where they made the app.
Oh, see, I haven't been to Millville Music Fest, but it always gives me the impression that it's extremely well organized.
Yeah, with Millville Music Fest, they made an app where you could download the app. And it had literally like a map with where all the venues were and had the schedules. And then you could also add people to your schedule and it would be in the app. Deutschtown Music Fest did a thing where you could add people to your schedule, but the mobile view on your phone doesn't show you the schedule. So I had to go to web browser view to get the schedule. And it's like, you tried, and I understand it's a lot of work to do that kind of shit, but there's some tweaks that could be made in regards to that.
Can I mention one thing about Deutschtown? And I kind of have a grudge about this after last night. It pretty much ruined my evening, and more so, I think, my boyfriend's evening, but it kind of put me in a bad mood too. The bullshit with the freaking wristbands thing. They need to train and educate their volunteers or their workers, I guess, on that, because 100% I'm using this term not lightly. We got scammed last night pretty much. When we went to go see the long hunt and all that stuff at St. Mary's, they have a person stationed out front and she's like, hey guys, can I see your IDs? Can you get wristbands? Or you need to pay $5 for a wristband. And I was sort of like, why is she asking me for a wristband? We're going into a venue that has a bar. So I said, no due disrespect. I said, we were here last night for a show and we did not get asked for a wristband. We're all over 21. We showed ID at the bar and we paid cash at the bar to drink. And she goes, well, you weren't supposed to do that. And I didn't hear you say that. And I'm like, okay. So we cough up $5 for a wristband. And then we go inside and I talked to the one bartender and I said, something about this just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I said, you guys operate like a normal bar, correct? We drank here last night. I show you my ID. You see I'm over 21 and I give you money to pour me a drink. And she goes, yeah. She's like, we have nothing to do with the wristband thing. So we just went back outside because they're also a cash only bar. So we were out of money now to purchase beverages with. So we went out front and I said, I'd really like my money back. I don't need this wristband. I just confirmed with the bartender that I can purchase alcohol here legally like anything else. And she's like, oh, sorry, there was a misunderstanding. And I'm thinking, no, I told you, I said, we're over 21. It should operate normally. And I think there's just some confusion with some of the venues, like having that additional sponsored wristband thing and whatever. That was kind of the only sore spot with me. I think it was just a lot of miscommunication there.
Yeah. My understanding with the wristbands is that the money from those wristbands that for the Deutschtown, the idea in theory is...
Yeah, because please educate me because they don't explain it. They're just like, give me your $5 and let you in to go pay more money to buy drinks.
My computer's blowing up now, which is really funny. The idea with the wristbands is that if you get the you pay $5 to get the wristband to show that you're 21 plus.
Right.
And you should only have to pay that once. Mm-hmm. And that wristband is so you can go to all of the outside pop-up places and get your beers. And that money is supposed to go and pay for the bands that are playing. The past 2 years that I played Deutschtown Music Festival, we did get paid. We got checks.
Good. I fully support that if they tell you that. They don't tell you that at all.
But I will tell you this. Of all the places that I went to yesterday, the girl standing outside of St. Mary's was the only person that gave me trouble as well about the wristband.
Ooh, we have a mystery on our hands.
And I don't know.
I don't wish her any like.
No, it was like in a way where it was like whenever I was walking in to go see Gator Shakes. Shout outs to the homies in Gator Shakes.
Yeah.
And that clap a little early. Nothing against you guys. We're just not going to let it fade out.
Stunted clap.
Are you 21? Yes. Are you planning on drinking? No, I wasn't. I was just going to go watch the band leave. They're like, okay, well, if you want to drink, it's $5 for a wristband. I was like, okay, cool. Good to know. And then I went inside and I was like, oh, so you have to pay for a wristband and then you have to pay for drinks as well.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I did. But then later in the night, when I was at the Grand Hall, I saw that was the first time I even saw the signage for like, in order to drink, you need to get a wristband.
Right.
And, money goes to the artists. Wristbands are $5. But I mean, I apologize. I didn't buy a wristband yesterday and I bought beer at a lot of places without a wristband and without getting carded.
And I would have been much more compelled to do it.
I didn't even think about it until I saw that sign. In my brain, I thought, oh, St. Mary's is just trying to make $5 from all the people coming in the venue.
That is exactly what I thought.
And then I saw that sign later. At the end of the day, granted, I had been drinking all day without being asked once. So I feel bad about that. I feel bad that I didn't buy a wristband to give, bands $5. But yeah, Deutschtown people need to know that either people are being very abrasive and not explaining it correctly, or they're just not even checking for the wristbands at all.
It just felt like I got lied to my face because I was very polite about it. I said, I just don't understand. I said, what is the point of the wristband if I can walk 4 feet to my right and go in and purchase the alcohol at a bar like any other fucking establishment in the city? I was really, and it wasn't even me, it was really my boyfriend, but we all kind of collectively were like, they don't advertise it. I understand having the wristband to go drink at the little Straub tents and stuff, but we kind of as a group were like, we wanted to, patronize the establishments we were going into as opposed to getting a draft thing poured out of a keg. But it just comes down to communication. And I went to St. Mary's at 10 o'clock at night. I only wanted to see 2 more bands. We went to see Rat Tits and then The Long Hunt. And we ran into so many other people walking up the sidewalk. We're like, don't buy a wristband. You don't need a wristband. Don't buy a wristband. But I wouldn't have said that had I known that it was actually for a good cause, but they didn't advertise it that way. And they're a cash only bar. So the money we lost $15 collectively for wristbands that I then needed to get back to actually buy beer. So
yeah.
So that's our beef. That's my beef. Nothing against Deutschtown. I had a fantastic time. I thought it really went off pretty much without a hitch. But I just think if I could make any suggestions about how to improve that, they need to communicate that better and just inform everybody to not really be so abrasive about it, I guess.
Yeah, it's so fucking hard to put together an event like that. I think
right.
If I was running this event, the way that I would do it, I would definitely from the jump not try to get, secure spots in places where it's unreliable.
Yeah.
Like the place that you went to.
Yeah, Armory Printworks or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, it's fine, like shit happens, but it's like, why don't you focus on spots that are actually capable of hosting these bands?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, if you're going to do 2 nights, why not split it up so Friday night's one side of North Side and then Saturday night's the other side of North Side?
That's a good idea.
Rather than trying to have people, going back and forth. Because as a patron, it was really hard for me because there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to see and I literally couldn't do all of it because it was so scattered, which on a scale, it's like, oh, this is fun. But like,
yeah, you do.
It makes it just kind of like more miserable and just kind of like disappointing to some degree.
Yeah. Though I think that is the beauty of Deutschtown is, like you were saying earlier, there were people I wanted to see because I knew of the band, but maybe I hadn't gotten to see them live. And it was like, oh, cool. This is now a chance to see them in sort of a weird setting and it might be fun. And some of the beauty of Deutschtown is you are just kind of letting the music encompass you. You're sort of walking up the street and going, oh, hey, I wonder who these guys are. They sound pretty good. We'll stand across the street and watch them, or we'll stumble into this place and grab some food and see who's playing. But it does get pretty exhausting throughout the day. Just being out so much and walking around.
Yeah. The other thing that sucks about it too is that it's like, there's like a hard disconnect because you have to walk across the bridge that's like, 276 or whatever the road is.
279, yeah.
Yeah, 279. That disconnect of places to see music in between, it makes it like, where are we walking again?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to?
So I'm going to shout out to my good friend, Katie D. She was, Katie D and the Quaking Aspens is kind of her little stage name, but it's just her solo folk guitar stuff, murder ballads. She's very funny. Good friend of mine. And I knew that she was playing at Threadbare Cider House. That is literally the farthest venue away. And I had parked right off 279. And I'm like, well, I'm not moving my car because I got free street parking. I'm not giving up my spot. So my boyfriend and his friend and I walked 25 minutes on foot just over there. And I told my parents to come out and support. So they did. And I'm like, if my parents hadn't been there and they had a van to drive us back to Troy Hill, I mean, we would have been walking through the dark, like in some real, you better have a pocket knife sort of shit. Yeah. Like, it's very disparate. And I mean, I don't know how you could really make that better other than you're just kind of capping off the amount of venues you have. Just keep it to a smaller list. Cause it's literally impossible to see every band at Deutschtown. Yeah. It's physically impossible. You're never going to see every band.
I think that like you could spread out the event like across more days. And make every little day like much more busy. Like you have Saturday be like that busy day that's over in like Deutschtown Center where like the main stage and all that stuff is in the park. That's all great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Do Friday night, do that at like Penn Brewery and all the stuff in this area. And then if you wanted to you could do a Sunday brunch at the Threadbare and the Wiggle Whiskey Room.
And I was kind of hoping that they would have, I'm sure festivities are shut down for the day now. But I was kind of hoping that they would have more stuff on Sunday, but I understand why they do that. They want to give the volunteers and the workers like a chance to get a break and get some of their weekend back. And, people might travel in for this.
But I mean, if you
need travel time,
if you were to split it up,
Yeah.
Like it would be a lot easier because instead of everybody having to focus on this huge geographical area, it's like, oh, on one day, like on Friday night is like the whole Penn Brewery side of Northside.
Mhm.
And then on Saturday is the other side of Northside. On Saturday, you can have people doing cleanup on this side.
Yeah.
Of
I like that idea.
taking care of all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then, they can actually, you wouldn't have to rent as much gear because whatever you tear down from Friday night,
just hop
you
it
could
on
use
over.
on Sunday.
That's a great idea. I think you should get on the committee or something. Like, see, you have enough connections. You could probably worm your way onto it somehow.
I don't think anybody wants to hear my ideas because I'm also fully convinced, and I don't mean this in any sort of a bad way. I just think that it's in one way or another, I think somebody's making a lot of money off of this.
Yeah,
so I think that the focus and the drive behind this is not so much, oh, let's promote the local music community, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of money. Somebody's making money off of this. That's the only reason they're able to do it. And the easiest way for them to do it is just, whatever, just take over everything. Let's just make a shit ton of money, put bands wherever, put them in situations that don't really matter. The PA doesn't work out, whatever, they'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of shit, That
and was like half the shows I saw yesterday.
Yeah, and that's fine. But we'll just keep in mind, maybe one day I'll do my own thing and y'all watch out.
That would be awesome. I would go out. I would go to whatever music festival you come up with. I think it would be great.
I have some ideas.
Well, you touched so many, parts of the local scene, and like I was saying before, I think we start recording. You're a hip hop guy and you're a metal guy, and so like you, in the Venn diagram of genres, you're kind of like in 3 or 4 circles, and that gives you a unique perspective on the needs, I guess, of concert goers and arts fans in the city.
Yeah, the podcast does it the most because like I have people on the show from like every little stupid pocket of the music scene. And the interesting thing is that everybody has the same issues.
Yeah. It doesn't, like you said, like genres are almost irrelevant anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, all the people I interview on my show, it's like I could talk to a pop artist or a metal front woman or a bass guitarist or a drummer or whoever, and most of them encounter the same types of issues in their local scene or just in the music industry at large, kind of.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. I do want to put together some sort of a fest thing. I have ideas, a Start the Beat festival or something like that. We'll see what happens.
Will you at least do like live podcasts? Like I would love to get into that at some point, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to do it yet. But I give you a lot of credit for just like going, hey, I'm just going to set up a table and, see who comes out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. People do not give a shit about live podcasts. So maybe save yourself the energy.
Oh,
they don't care. I mean, we've done some house party live podcasts and those are cool, but like actually like doing it at a venue, it can be hard, but that's just me, like people that listen to your show and maybe your demographic of people, they might be people that might be willing to come out. You never know until you try.
No, that's true. I would love to give it a try.
Don't let me discourage you. No. In my experience, it hasn't been the most fruitful.
That's kind of scary though, because your podcast is essentially specific, not entirely, but it's relevant to Pittsburgh. And if you can't get Yinzers to come out to a local podcast about Pittsburgh music, it's sort of like, well, I'm fucked because I'm interviewing people in everywhere. I mean, I've had some live guests, but for the most part, a lot of my interviews are remote. So it's like, I just interview whoever the hell I feel is going to be interesting. And so there's no chance in hell they're going to drive to Pittsburgh to show up and sit in front of me at a table somewhere. Like,
I just think that even though a lot of people will know podcasts, a large scale respect and appreciation for podcasting is still pretty niche. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard enough trying to get people to come out to a live show, a live local show.
Right.
So, but that's music. People like watching bands play music, but you try to get a bunch of people to come out to a live podcast
and watch people talk.
It's a very specific group of people.
Well, I don't know what other podcasts you listen to, but I know I personally would love to go see. Have you ever heard of the Dollop?
Yeah, I did see the Dollop live.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah.
Weren't they at like the Benedum or something?
It was
Heinz Hall?
Carnegie.
Oh, okay. I would love to go see them live because so much of their chemistry is that whole show is made by the chemistry of those two hosts, and then they usually at the live ones they have like a special guest.
I think it's a completely different beast if you have like a huge podcast that taps into that market. But me being this niche person that's, you know, I'm doing a podcast, which is a niche demographic on Pittsburgh music, which is even more niche.
It's a small thing.
You know what I mean? It's one thing to do a podcast on American history, which is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Save a huge topic that you could pull a small group of people from. But for me, it's like,
that's why I don't
local music.
Yeah, I don't put any stock in my podcast other than I do it because I love talking to musicians. Like most musicians will talk about their project if you put them in front of a microphone. And for me, music has always been a kind of psychologically connected way to express myself. And so I always like kind of pulling the curtain back and understanding what makes other musicians tick. Like, you know, what is it that drives them to make music, and why is that the medium through which they do it? So it's like, I don't want to say I don't care if my conversations are interesting, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm going to go seek out the people that I want to know those answers about, not necessarily what quote unquote my fans will, because I only, you know, I have a small dedicated listener base, and I try to put out quality material, but really the point of my podcast is to, hey, I want to get my questions answered, and hopefully somebody listens and has a good time while they listen.
And if you don't give a shit about what you're doing and what you're putting out, it's going to come through in the end result, and then nobody else is going to care about it.
Yeah. If you don't care about what you're doing, you can guarantee nobody gives a shit about it.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a problem.
Well,
but you seem like you're on the right side of things.
I'm trying. I'm every episode. I'm just like, well, actually, that's what I have to do later today. Is I got a new audio interface to accommodate that interview I'm going to do on Wednesday and it's actually, you know, 2 local people. So I'm like, oh crap! Like I like rush ordered stuff at Guitar Center, and I had to go pick it up to like make sure I had enough gear to accommodate 2 microphones, because I've only ever had 1 live person. And I'm not an audio guru, so I'm like kind of terrified that I'm going to screw it up, and then I'm going to record these 2 people, these wonderful individuals, and then it's going to sound like shit.
The only way to learn something is to fuck it up for a little bit.
Well,
so
that's why
I would definitely suggest getting some sort of a test run in, even if you just like set everything up and you just jump around all the microphones.
Yeah. No, I'm going to probably do that later, but it's scary when you're doing it all yourself. And like, you know, I'm here in your studio and it's just like, it's very professional, and it's not like you've magically learned that overnight. Like I'm sure, you know, you had a lot of trial and error getting that right.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been doing the podcast for a while, and I was already like recording music and stuff before I started the podcast. So yeah, I have some background.
I wasn't, and I'm still like, what does this button do?
But it's fun. Learning is great. Yeah. You know, that's
failing is a good thing. You should fail. You should really suck at something for a little while, and then eventually you pick up speed and you're like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do. That's the magic button, that sort of thing.
You have to do it wrong to really learn how to do it right.
Absolutely.
That's anything in life. Mm-hmm. It's like walking, right?
Yeah, you got to fall down before you...
Eating pizza the right way?
Yeah, eating pizza with Sour Patch Kids on it. I got to try that. Next time I see Stacy, I got to be like, oh, yo, let's go get pizza, and I'll bring my Sour Patch Kids. Does she like make it at home? She like get a DiGiorno out of the freezer at Giant Eagle and then go, oh honey, we got to go get Sour Patch Kids.
They get put on post every time I've had them. Just like room temp Sour Patch Kids out the bag on the pizza.
I got to try that. I'm so like morbidly curious now.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I think we could probably wrap this up right now. We're at 73 minutes. So I think we've had plenty. We've talked plenty. We've touch base on most of the things. We could have talked more about this or that, but hey, you know, you can't talk about everything in an hour.
No.
So we'll wrap it up on that. And I guess outro music. Is that how we do this?
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'm looking at the camera like it's still on. Kelly, thanks for being here last minute again. Really appreciate it. Be sure to check out her podcast. Maybe one day you'll catch us on
for sure. Yeah, this is going to be a reciprocal engagement. Absolutely. But if you want to be on my show, just come find me on social media. I'll evaluate and see if you're worth talking to. No,
Yeah.
I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, be sure to keep an eye out for Kelly at some shows too.
Yes.
Probably see her around.
I do not crowd kill, so I won't punch you in the face, but I might shove you a little.
And I'll be back again next time with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes. Start the Beat 2019. Woo, woo. Thanks for listening. And that is all.
Cool. All right. That was cool, like watching it all happen live.
We did it.
Thanks for having me. That was fun.
You're welcome.